Welcome to Success Chats, and thank you so much for being here.
It's a real pleasure. Thank you for inviting me. First time in this beautiful studio as well, and I have to say it's a good get up.
I wanted to have you on because I find you and your story really inspiring. So you were a professional baseball player.
Correct.
And completely switched your career, and now you work for one of the most influential entrepreneurs, Garyvee. If anyone doesn't know, Garyvee he's amazing, basically. He's an amazing businessman. He owns VaynerMedia, which is where you work.
Correct.
And they work with Fortune 500 companies. Garyvee also has an amazing personal brand. He has millions of followers. I know he has around 10 million followers on Instagram. He's invested into certain industries early on. He invested in Facebook, Twitter very early on. I'm really excited to hear all about that and you, so we'll get into all of it.
Amazing. Yeah, so background about myself probably is the best place to start. Obviously, I'm born and raised from Michigan. Maybe it's not obvious, but I wear Michigan on my sleeve in a lot of ways. I take real pride where I come from, but grew up in a very, very sports-heavy family. All my brothers played sports. We all played college sports. My brother, who lives with me, that I do all my content with, The Real O Show, played professional hockey. I played professional baseball. So one way left to another during COVID, we kind of got thrown back into each other's lives after a long time. And where we netted off was to do something different in our family and to build generational wealth. We have to do something different than our family's never done.
So true.
And so we immediately were like, what's our business?
Yeah.
And I happened to stumble upon maybe a couple months earlier, maybe 6 months earlier, was Garyvee. And first time I saw a video of Gary, I was like, okay, this dude's saying some shit, like whatever, never followed him. Then obviously as the algorithm does work, I kept getting his videos. And then probably by the third video, I was like, this motherfucker's onto something. With myself, with what he's saying about social media, what he's saying about the internet, I'm like, he's right. Immediately became probably the biggest fan of Gary from afar. And obviously, this is four and a half years ago. So I've been working with Gary for 2.5 years. So think of the difference in the times of then that point to how far we've come. And this is at the point where I've never even posted a video on the internet, trying to make content that wasn't sports or me hanging out with my boys, on Instagram, something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, he's right. So me and my brother, right away, we were like, okay, we want to make social media content for small businesses in the area that we knew that we had connections with. Instantly started to do that. And we quickly found out after about 3 months of having a couple clients, one, it's a lot of work for us just to do it. And two, you have no control over when you have somebody else's work kind of telling you what to do, which is every day of VaynerMedia at the highest scale. They're like, we want this. And we're like, we should do this. But it's now it's you're kind of fighting on it. And then you're always the bad guy in a way, which is good. That's agency life. And that's really content in general, to be honest, especially at that high level. We faced that early on with small businesses. And we're like, okay, let's just build our own brand. And then once we build our own brand, we'll then make a business something. Obviously, at the time, we were like, we'll just do an agency. Now I'm like, I probably wouldn't ever build an agency, no matter how big I got, just because I've seen the inside of it and I understand it, and I have a lot of respect for what Gary and everybody at VaynerMedia does, and really VaynerX in general does. It's just not, I don't think that would be something I would want to do the rest of my life in a way. I want to find longevity with whatever I do.
Yeah.
But anyways, we started making content, which is where The Real O Show came from. And we wanted to do The O Show, which actually comes from a nickname my brother Joshua had growing up. And I used to make fun of him for it a little bit. I'm like, whatever, O Show.
Okay, so you have 3 brothers.
I have 3 older brothers.
Oh.
I'm the youngest.
Oh, wow.
But 3 older brothers. Joshua's exactly 1.5 years older than me.
Okay.
Exactly. And then all my other brothers are 2-ish years apart.
Okay.
But yes, the youngest. And obviously that's why it's kind of fun that me and Joshua kind of get to do it, because we're the youngest in the family. And it was we shared a room until I was in middle school. And then, when he was in high school, he then got his own room because my oldest brother moved out and went to college. But The Real O Show started because of his last name. As soon as we started doing it, I'm like, we got to call it The O Show. Because I was like, it was kind of a family name, and I grew to love it. And I'm like, bro, that's kind of a dope nickname.
Yeah.
We quickly found out that 4 other people also had The O Show as a YouTube content and Instagram and whatever.
So you changed it to The Real.
Exactly. Yeah. And where we grew up in Michigan is Eminem was obviously a big thing of us. I used to dye my hair blonde. All our brothers used to for Slim Shady, right? We always used to dye our hair it was out of control. I can't believe my mom let us do this.
Wow.
I could not believe it. But we did.
Okay.
And so when we did it, we were like, the real Slim Shady, and we added then the real O Show, and it's kind of fit like a glove now.
It's
so
crazy. How,
it's a deep rooted story a little bit, like it's a little interwoven within the brand, like that it actually means something.
Yeah, it's special.
Yeah, of course, and it's just grown to be a family brand. You know, me and Joshua have been doing it for 3 years now. Podcast, vlog, short form, which is green screen storytelling. In a lot of ways, obviously we post podcast clips or post a vlog clip, but like 90% of our content, green screen storytelling from like short form perspective, and I really love doing it.
Thank you for explaining all that. And I love how you said what drove your ambition was that you wanted to break, generational cycles, and you're the youngest too. So that's amazing that you have that ambition. I feel like I kind of share that with you. I have 2 older sisters and I'm the youngest, and I feel like in a lot of ways that's what drives my ambition. I don't know what it is.
I think what people don't understand, or do understand if they're the youngest, you get a lot more at bats because you get to see your older brothers fail, succeed.
Yes.
For me, I got to have a lot more at bats within sports and understood kind of how because my dad was very, very hard on us, like very, very hard with sports. Like if you weren't good at sports, it was like a bad thing.
That's how you became so successful in baseball.
Out of desperate.
Wow.
Really, like it was really like out of like a fear of like making my dad upset in a lot of ways. So like I pushed myself crazy to be good at sports.
Yeah.
Obviously that leads to burnout, which then obviously led me down the Gary path and really consuming his content, where it was like, if you're not doing shit that makes you fucking happy,
yes,
you shouldn't be doing it. Because life, everybody talks about life as like short. For some people it can be. That die of like tragedies, it happens 100%. For the majority, life can be very, very long. If you take care of yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, life can be very long. Obviously, if a tragedy doesn't happen. And I think too many people play the game that it's way too fast, but it's actually, you get a lot more at-bats than you think. Being the youngest gave me more at-bats to become more mature earlier on. So then I actually, what kind of led me down this path of generational wealth and whatever, is I actually interwoven with my brother, but not so much my brother, because I'm not a representation to anybody in my family. Completely different than everybody. They're all kind of like the same a little bit. They're all a little bit different, but they're all kind of the same. I'm very different.
In what ways would you say?
How I can talk like this.
Right, yeah.
How I can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I can tell a story of me and my brother probably better than he can, of like how we came together, made content. We want to build a business. Like I could sell the dream better than he could, because I can go to that place emotionally within myself and be confident.
That's amazing.
No one in my family can do that.
And it takes a lot to get there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's every day.
Yeah.
It's not that it takes so long to get there. It's every day. People don't understand that.
Right.
And that's kind of going back to the story I told you, that life's long.
Right.
It's an everyday fight.
Did you go to college?
I did. I went to Eastern Michigan.
Okay.
That's where I played college baseball.
Wow.
Shout out all my boys at Eastern Michigan. Shout out Eric Garyvee, who was the head coach there, who recruited me and really believed in me. It was a very small school, 20 minutes from where I grew up. So I pretty much went to school with like where I grew up. Like it was very, very close. And it was funny because it was the one school I said in the recruiting process, I was like, I never want to go there.
Oh, shit.
It was too close. But they were the only school that offered me from like a Division I level, which I felt like I deserved. I ended up proving that, but like there's that. But I was very, very under-recruited for plenty of reasons. I didn't really take baseball that serious.
What did you major in then?
Business management.
Oh, wow. Okay.
With a minor in communication.
Which makes sense too.
Very much.
Based on what you're doing now and how you speak.
Well, I always wanted to do, growing up, I always wanted to be like a general manager of a sport.
Oh,
like I always loved like managing a team. Like if I could be the GM of the Detroit Lions, I could die tomorrow and I'd be happy. Like that was like that type thing is what I always wanted to do. I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I never was like, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. But my brother Joshua is very entrepreneurial, and hanging out with him kind of brought that confidence out of me and changed my thinking in a lot of ways. And really when I was going down this rant, what I wanted to say is I read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
Was probably the first book I actually read in probably 10 years. When I first read it, like during COVID. Was probably, I like did never read books at all.
So what's that about? Because I love like books on success. Is it like it's inspiring?
It teaches you everything you've never been taught about money and everything they try to brainwash you about money. So it flipped a switch in my mind to it made me look at the world completely different. Where the only way to actually win, which he calls the rat race, the only way to get out of the rat race is by doing shit different, understanding how money works, investing in building a business that pays you, month over month.
It's so true. If you look at anyone great in this world, they have all not taken the same path. They've done something different. They've taken risks, and that's what you have to do.
The only way to get out of the matrix is you have to break the matrix.
You have to be brave enough to do it.
And it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
And it's really hard.
It is.
I might look back in 50 years and not succeed on what I wanted to do and what I thought I was going to do. But fuck, I'm going to try.
At least you can look back and say, I did that.
Exactly. And I think that, back to the life is long part, people don't think about that enough.
Right.
They're like, I want this now. If I don't get it now, I'm not worth it. And they give up.
Right.
When the biggest part of the battle, the hardest part is just showing up in life. Like, if you're going to show up.
That's half of it.
Half, 90%, it's the hardest part.
Okay. So you played professional baseball, and then tell me about you found Garyvee and how you reached out to him. How did that work? Did you hear from him right away? What encouraged you to just be like, you know what? I'm just going to reach out. Fuck it. Like, how did that all play out?
It was definitely a fuck it. And it was funny. I was talking to somebody else earlier about content, and they're like, I'm thinking about it this way, but I wonder if I should just be like, fuck it, and just do it. And I literally was like, you know what? In the content game, the best answer is fuck it.
Right.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And I probably have gotten Gary 200 followers myself. I've definitely gotten him 200 plus book sales.
I would even say more.
Maybe,
I think you're being
but like, that's a real number. Same with like Rich Dad Poor Dad. I put like 60 people on that book. Like, when I find something that I'm like, this is fucking right, and I fully believe in it, I put people on. So anybody who was close to me, anybody who followed me, I was shoving Garyvee down their throat. Huge fan. DM'd him on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, commented on everything, liked everything, shared a bunch of stories, like that. Not like super fan, but like in a real fucking way.
Yeah,
like
so
I
he
was
sees,
not
like,
even, but he never saw. But he never saw. So this is what I was doing. I was working a job, Pulse IQ. Shout out Adam, who was my former boss at Pulse IQ, is a startup, which was a energy efficient building. I was working sales.
There?
I was working sales.
Okay.
I was the only salesperson. I was actually doing really well. I hate sales, but I actually, without even like really trying, I tend to be good at sales. I don't know what it is. I like
can see you convincing people.
Exactly. But I don't like it. I truly don't like it.
Okay.
But I was doing that. I was working remote back in Michigan, and he wanted me to move to like Maryland, DC area. And I was like, I want to move out of Michigan. I felt like I grew out of Michigan, a place when growing up, I was like, I never want to leave Michigan. Like, true shit. Then I kind of changed it as a human. Whatever, hit rock bottom, built myself back up, really started exploring myself, started making content, started building a business. I was like, this world's way bigger than Michigan. I was like, I got to get out. I don't know where. They wanted me to go to DC. I was like, fuck, I really don't want to go to DC. Like, I really don't. Like, it just like something in me was like, you're not supposed to go to DC. Like, something was in me. And kind of within that time, I was on LinkedIn, and I was applying to jobs at VaynerX. So Gary is the CEO and founder of VaynerX, which is 13 companies, 3,000 employees, marketing, advertising, working with $1 to $50 million companies all the way to the biggest companies in the world, Fortune 500 companies. Social media first, besides like Super Bowl commercials. We do Super Bowl commercials. We do the most of pretty much any agency like in the US. I was applying to jobs, and I got this thought. I was like, fuck. I've tagged Gary on like a ton of other platforms. But I was like, I've never messaged him on LinkedIn. This is my thought. I was like, I wonder if you can message him on LinkedIn. Went to his page, and he has open profile messages. So anybody can message him. Like, some people, to message them or connect with them, you need to like put in an email. Not him. You could send a cold DM. And as I've gotten to know him, it's the most Gary thing ever, because he actually reads them. Like, he actually reads them. I happened to DM him at like Sunday-ish at 11 a.m., like around that time. And pretty much in as concise as possible, poured my heart out of like, I want to make content with my brother and build like generational wealth with my brother in that kind of way. But we're just so young and don't have the experience that like, we want to work for you to learn those at bats and to learn from you and then like see what happens. And then I was like, I quit playing professional baseball literally off your message, like your content. And I was like, I'll do anything to work for you. I'll work for free. I'll work for peanuts. And I was like, I just want to be as close to the sun as possible, which happened to be in his podcast that morning. He literally said that same exact thing. So I pulled the words out. I was like, almost like, this is verbatim of what you said. I'm going to say it back to you. He ended up responding about 35 minutes after that.
Wow.
Which was, thought it was completely fake. And like, my heart is racing. Like, wait, what?
You didn't believe it.
Like, it was insane.
So surreal.
I ended up then emailing him. I got put on email with Andy, who runs VFriends, Gary's intellectual property, Pokemon meets Sesame Street.
Wow.
And Sid, who runs his personal personal brand, Team Garyvee, which is like 30 people who work on Gary's personal content team. Shoot, edit, so Gary can then post it. Like 30 people. It's a real function. They do it in different languages. It's a real operation, and Sid's been running that. Got on a call with Sid, and he was like, I don't have a job for you, but he's like, I love you. He's like, this is the best conversation I've had in months.
See, it's so important, even just personality, like showing your true self. You told Gary your story, and because of that, that's why you stood out, at least in my opinion.
For sure. And it's just like, I was just at the point in my life, I was in the fucking moment of my life. I was like, what could go wrong?
Right.
And I talked to Sid, and he's like, I don't have a job for you. But he's like, I'll try. He's like, I could actually get you like a 10-minute podcast with Gary easier than I could get you a job, is what he said. He's like, which one would you rather have?
Oh.
Because they knew about the podcast. They knew about my content with my brother.
What did you say?
And I was like, I want the job.
Wow.
Because I was like, I know once I get in, I'll get the fucking podcast and a lot more.
You had bigger thinking.
I wanted the whole, Drake has a lyric. He's like, they try to give me a slice of the pie. I brought the knife home. That was my thinking. I was like, I'm bringing the knife home, actually. I don't want the pie. I want the knife. The podcast would have been a little piece of the pie of like, cool, we get maybe a couple thousand viewed podcast. We get the notoriety that Gary was on our podcast and knows of us. He follows us. This the cool that we could have went off that and been fine. But I was like, there's more here. I was like, I want a job. I'll do anything. Don't care. I'll do anything. I ended up then being the first hire on special projects. By Steele, and essentially just working a business development role throughout like the VaynerX entity. Just how can we get more business in the door? And I did that for about 3 months. Gary loved the way I worked. And then I kind of got moved to this core relationship special projects role that I kind of work within, which is like the easiest way to describe it is a ninja crew throughout the business entity, the Garyvee entity, and Gary the entrepreneur entity.
Wow.
So it's forever changing, and we essentially to scale Gary in a lot of ways. Whereas if he points his finger, he's like, I need you guys here to help me. I can't get to this. I need you guys to put this fire out or think about it or strategize, whatever it is. And that's what we do. And it's been a whirlwind 2.5 years. And I can't believe I've lived here this long, but it's been incredibly fun, and I fucking love New York.
That's amazing. I love hearing all that. And I feel like what everyone wants to know is, what is it like working with Garyvee? If you could just sum it up. I know that's probably so hard to answer.
So what it's like to work for Gary is high energy as he is in his content. That's really how he runs his business and thinks about it. The scariest thing when I worked for Gary that I was most nervous about is he wouldn't be what his content was. I was very scared about it. And I didn't really talk to people about it because I was almost like, I don't even want to put it in the world that he's not what he puts out.
Right. That's a scary thing. It's like when you meet a celebrity, you're like, I don't want to be disappointed.
It's the craziest thing.
Right.
So I was very scared.
Okay.
Very cautious. Was very like not naive at all. Like I was like almost negative to a lot of things where I'm like, that's not real. Like, I'm
Right.
almost like kind of putting that out there to like back to the vulnerability side, back to knowing yourself. Like I was obviously trying to like protect myself from being hurt too much, right?
Yeah.
And putting your heart completely on the line for something you actually don't know. Like it's not confirmed. And what it's like to work for Gary is there's a saying we do throughout the business and really his world. And someone who isn't conscious enough or doesn't think outside the box enough or overthinks might think is the bad term to say in business. But if you live in the content space, it's right, is build the plane while it's flying. I would say that's what it's like to work for Gary. We have an idea, we have a strategy, we have an objective. Let's go right now and start moving towards that goal. We don't need to strategize and like mastermind this crazy plan. Like we know step one, let's execute step one and we'll get to step two. Whereas most people need step 1 through 47 before they start.
Right.
But because they strategize for so long, we just went. We'll be at 47 way before them.
Wow.
Just by going, and you'll be better. Because once you actually try stuff and fail, like people are so scared
That's how
to
you
fail.
learn.
You learn from failing. And I'm scared to fail too. I think everybody's a little scared to fail. But once you fail enough and then you overcome it enough, you then get the confidence.
Right.
And I think that's what Gary has learned and portrays throughout the company, and the energy he portrays where it's okay to fail.
And you said working for Gary, one of the things is building the plane kind of when it's flying, which I find really interesting because I come from a business background. I got my degree in business. You also do, but you're also in the content space. So you see that difference. And it's really interesting because like coming from a business background, they love strategy and let's plan, let's do this. But then on the content end, and what Gary is saying is just do it because then you're going to learn quicker. And Gary is so successful. So maybe we should take more points in that sense.
Well, the business side of it can get way too corporate. Mm-hmm. Corporate is slow.
Yes, very slow.
Corporate is like politics.
Right.
Democracy's slow. Mm-hmm. It's why it doesn't last. And most countries don't do it. It's slow. Mm-hmm. And it's hard because you have to live with the results. Corporate tries to do the same thing. Where I pride what Gary does is he tries to do his best to make it as like least corporate as possible.
Did you find it hard to navigate, like once you came here from Michigan and working for VaynerMedia, was it difficult for you to navigate, or how did that work?
I like to say it fit like a glove.
Wow.
It was.
You found your calling?
Literally. I think I found my place. I moved here and it just like everything just seemed right. It's really addicting, to be honest. Like the energy is addicting. And I'm like, I see why people get chewed up and spit out in big cities. Like I see it, but I've absolutely loved it. And like it's actually ruined Michigan for me. I used to like love going back to Michigan. Now I'm like, oh, what's here? Like there's nothing here.
Yeah,
and it's just like all my dopamine is just fucked up from New York. But yeah, I've absolutely loved New York, and not a forever thing. I think I might always have a presence here, but definitely will have to move out and get a lot more property at some point.
Okay. Tell us something about Garyvee that we wouldn't expect.
He's a great father.
Aw.
I think because he obviously doesn't talk about it. He's a great dad, and in a lot of ways, like I definitely want to have a family. I definitely want to have kids, and he's showing me and has kind of showed me how you can have a successful business and career and still be a good dad. So I think that's completely underrated about Gary.
And you could be a great dad and run this successful business. And
you know what he talks about? A lot of parents over-coddle their kids.
You know, that's actually worse than leaving them alone.
Bingo.
Over-coddling.
Bingo. It fucks them up. My parents were not the best parents. They messed a lot of things up. But I actually look back and I'm like, they actually did the right thing, just they said it wrong or they did it in the wrong way. But it was actually the right lesson. And from a kid, I had like full autonomy to be like by myself. And I was like 10, 12 years old. I was the youngest of four. Like they're like, he'll be fine. And I was. I might have got myself fucked up a few times. I might have ate food when I wasn't supposed to and like choked for a second. Like it's fucking what happens. I didn't die. It teaches you lessons. And I think that my parents did a really good job of, in a sports world, they didn't let me fuck up. Like they actually was like, they want perfection, which is like the opposite. Sports are like the opposite of perfect, right? It really, the best people at sports are the ones who like fuck up, but they like come back from it. Where like they didn't want even like the little bit of fuck up. Like, you know, it was like so kind of overbearing. And that's why I've kind of working with Gary through content, through like just growing up. The bigger the lessons you can learn earlier, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
Like a lot of people are my age, 27 years old, 30, 25, getting out of school, and it's like they don't know how to do shit.
It's so true.
They've never even lived.
I actually had a similar experience to you because my parents, I'm the youngest, and also my parents did not coddle me at all. They were just kind of like, do your own thing. I never had like a curfew. I never had rules. I never had anything. But because of that, I became so independent at a young age. And it also made me really ambitious because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to do this myself and I'm going to be successful. And I think ultimately it helped me more rather than if I were coddled. So I can agree with you in that sense.
It also just teaches you hard work. Like if you just like, it actually takes no talent to be successful. The one talent is work hard and be consistent would probably be the other thing. Like work hard.
I agree.
You don't have to be crazy smart. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be a mad scientist. Like just work hard.
Right.
Find the thing you actually like and you're willing to do it every single day until it works off. And then once it works off, you don't get satisfied and you keep going because you just love it so much. That's the goal.
Yes.
Like that's the goal. And I think you learn that by not being over-coddled, your parents not giving you money, your parents not letting you do anything. Like so many kids and parents that I know, it's just like they didn't let their kid fuck up. But then they fuck up at a time in their life when they probably, it's like harder to come back from fucking up.
Yes.
When you're 12 when you fuck up and you're 29 when you fuck up, two big different things, right? And I think that is probably the best thing my parents did. Not in the perfect way, but it was probably the best thing they ever did.
Yeah. How do you, because you started the Real O Show, you've put yourself out there so much. How do you kind of get rid of that voice in your head that's like, don't do that, or how do you not care what people think? Like, how are you able to do that?
It takes time.
Yeah.
Is the real, like, it's just like, it takes time. Everybody has that same inner voice in their head. No matter how famous people are insecure and nervous to put things up. Like, especially people who make music, they're very insecure about their music, and they're like, is it actually good? Like, that's content.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to hit fucking post, because at the end of the day, there's plenty of videos I post, I'm like, this is a bad video, that do really well, and there's plenty of videos I'm like, this is a good video, that suck.
You never know.
So you actually never know. And what Gary has prided himself off before I worked here and since I've worked for him, the market. The market will tell you if it's a good video or a bad video. Your subjective opinion, or your parents' subjective opinion, or significant other's opinion doesn't fucking matter at all.
Mm-hmm.
At all. I've been really on that life is reverse psychology. Everything you want to do, you can do it because there's probably some good stuff that you actually want to do, but like, be careful of like what you really want to do, right? Everybody has their impulses and or addictions, or like things they kind of like chase. Now, some of that stuff is probably not good. There's a reason why it's easier to do it. Gambling is very easy to do because it's addicting and like people like it. It's dopamine. But there's a lot of things we don't want to do that are actually the thing we should do and will push us closer towards our goals.
For VeeFriends, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
VeeFriends is Gary's Pokemon meets Sesame Street.
Okay.
If you don't know anything and you know Pokemon and you meet Sesame Street, imagine if they had a baby, that's VeeFriends.
Okay.
Essentially, Gary obviously is one human. The Garyvee entity will eventually die and fade away, and no one will ever think about him again. Sad truth, but it's the truth. He built VeeFriends as his legacy. Walt Disney created Disney. No one talks about Walt Disney. Everybody talks about Disney. That's what Gary wants to do with VeeFriends.
Wow.
It's his Pokemon meets Sesame Street, his Marvel, his Disney, from the collectible side of the business, which is a trading card, which is from the collectible side again is pins. Now we have like these limited edition hats, all the way to merchandise, to socks. That's really the business. And then obviously now, which is his greater plan, is they have a children's book, they have a children's TV show that's on YouTube,
wow.
and they're really just trying to build, I don't even know, just like to make people give a fuck about the characters, because each character is represented with a good human trait. There's some negative characters like cynical cat, but then there's also like empathy elephant, you know, the skilled skeleton. Like, you know, they're trying to build like these characters to make people give a fuck in a lot of ways, but something that can live past Gary, but also share Gary's message without being Gary.
When I first met you, you picked my VeeFriend and you picked the authenticity one. What made you pick that?
The good energy. I also think authenticity is so underrated in this society, in a world of social media and fake, that being authentic sets you apart from the pack and allows you to already be successful, but to find more success throughout life being authentic. Because back to the point, if you don't have real relationships and meaningful relationships and deep relationships and people trust you, you will not get that far in life. I promise you. So being authentic, and I enjoy spending time and being around people who are authentic, because obviously, like, I don't want to be around people who aren't authentic, because then I get looped in.
Yeah.
So I think that's why. The way to stick out is being yourself. To be uniquely different is be yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes have to catch myself. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, why?
Right.
Like, because it's easy to get kind of caught up in life, or you want the attention, or you want the virality. It's very easy. But to pride yourself on being your fucking self is the best thing and also the hardest thing. But back to the reverse psychology, it's the actually thing you need to do. Because back to life is very long. You have to live with yourself for 100 years. Might as well fucking like yourself.
I think that ties into the idea of what is success, because it's so subjective and it's so many different things to different people. I think if you can wake up every day and be proud of yourself, then you are successful. To me, that is what success is. Find what makes you happy, do that. Happiness is success. It's not anything monetary. It's not your job. It's being proud of yourself and who you are.
I physically couldn't agree more. And listen, from someone who's been incredibly negative towards themselves, me, my whole life, and still catch myself to this day, if you're like that, or it even goes the other way, if you're someone who's like overly positive, it takes time to get to like that neutral place.
Right.
Like it takes time to go from negative to neutral, and it takes time from going all the way positive to neutral. Like I wish I was someone who was like woke up and was super positive, but those people are also naive and don't catch shit that the super negative person will get. And you need kind of both of it. You know, it's the yin and yang of life. A little bit. You need a little positive, but that negative a little bit, like that inner critic, that doubt, that hater, you fucking need it. But you also need to fill it with positivity.
Yeah.
And that becomes from your inner circle, but really it comes from yourself. So it's being happy with yourself. It's doing the things to make sure you're happy with yourself. And every time you lay your head on the pillow at night, and I mean this every single day, I don't talk like in the next 2 years, I mean every single night, you can lay your head on the pillow and be happy of who you are and proud of yourself and be like, man, I can't wait to wake up tomorrow. That's fucking being successful.
I want to know, what's your mantra? I mean, you've said so many great things, but anything you want to leave the audience with?
I don't know if I'd call it a mantra.
Okay.
But I love this scenario and I use it on myself a lot. Just keep showing up. Just show up. Gym, reading, in a relationship, in a job, in your side hustle, in your main hustle. Just keep showing up. Day after day.
It's so important.
I think that's what I really, really pride myself on. And that's where it comes, like the consistency. Like, you had a good day today. Do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe. Till next time.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. If you guys want to follow Zachary on Instagram at
Zachary Owings 2 everywhere. And then it's just the Real O Show everywhere, which I'd rather have you follow the Real O Show than the Zachary Owings 2. I do some stories. I'll do some posts. And obviously you get to see like kind of what maybe like my motivational side stuff, maybe what I've represented in this conversation. But the Real O Show is my baby with my brother. So like that's where you'll get our green screen content, our podcast, our vlogs, anything funny that's going on in our life. That'll be where a lot more content will be posted. But the Real O Show and or Zachary Owings 2.